Oh, good evening. I want to have your attention if I can. I'm Jim Zogby, and I want to thank you all for being here. I have the honor of introducing to you Susan Rice, the National Security Advisor to the President of the United States. Susan's been with us on many occasions. During the campaigns, when sometimes we couldn't get anybody else to come, Susan came and spoke to us. And 5 years ago, when we had this gala, Susan came and gave a rather remarkable talk that I, for one, will not forget. She came to us last year in the midst of that horrific crisis when we had Yazidis on Mount Sinjar and Christians fearing extermination in Iraq, and spoke to us on the very day that the United States was about to start launching its attacks to stop ISIL in Iraq and Syria. She's a friend. And I want to tell you what I know about Susan. First is that she's made of real stern stuff and is never afraid to fight for what she believes in. I also know that Susan is an academic, but an academic whose scholarship is always informed by a keen sense of the fact that real people are behind history, and that if you're going to understand history, you have to understand people and the role they play in it. She also is a political practitioner who understands that you don't always get what you want, but you try to get what you need and what is possible given the politics of the day, and especially in the roles that she's played recently, dealing with Congress in a hyper-partisan environment and dealing with a public opinion that doesn't quite know what it wants from the United States, the role it wants us to play, is sort of trying to blend together what we need and at the same time what's possible. And finally, I know that although we always haven't agreed, and Lord knows we haven't always agreed, she's always been a friend, and a strong friend who really cares about us, cares about our community, and cares about the issues that all of us care about. And so I'm proud to bring her up to the stage to speak to us, and proud to call Susan Rice a friend. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I began by apologizing to Jim for not being appropriately attired. You all look lovely, and I just came from the Situation Room, so forgive me. It's wonderful to be back at this annual gala dinner. As Jim said, I had the honor of speaking here 5 years ago at the 25th anniversary of the Arab American Institute, and tonight I'm pleased to be here on behalf of President Obama to extend our best wishes to you as you honor your 30th year. Jim, I'm wondering if I should look forward to being here in 2020, if you might have me back. Jim, I also want to thank you for that very moving and generous introduction. You have been to me as well a very dear friend, and I've always admired your personal commitment to our founding ideals. You believe deeply, as do I, that everyone, every single individual is equal, and every voice matters. You and I share the belief that America's limitless diversity is a source of profound national strength. And that's the ethos behind AAI. We need to hear Arab American voices and concerns, just as we need to hear from every American, regardless of heritage or faith, gender, race, or sexual orientation. And it's up to all of us to push back against hatred and ignorance that are so damaging to our country and our world. So thank you, AAI, for your leadership in representing this proud and vital community. Let me also add my congratulations to tonight's honorees for the enormous good you do as advocates and educators. Arab Americans have been at the forefront of advancing our national security and our shared domestic interests for more than a century. They serve with dedication across our armed forces, many making the ultimate sacrifice for our country. Leading diplomats and politicians and public servants of Arab descent, including many of you here tonight, work tirelessly to make our world a more peaceful place. So thank you, each of you, for what you do. As a country, in the 30 years since AAI was founded, we've come a long way. You've led the way to overcome barriers of exclusion and intolerance, and to make sure Arab Americans are full participants in our democracy. You've helped shape our government's response to a range of civil rights and civil liberties issues, leading coalitions to ensure all ethnic and religious minorities receive equal protection under the law. And I am so proud that AAI is supporting the next generation of Arab American leaders who will continue to strengthen our country. Leaders like Shirin Nassar. Where's Shirin? I can't see. Shirin is one of our honorees. She's double majoring in international affairs and economics at George Washington University with a plan to join the Foreign Service after college. Ever since high school, she's dedicated herself to helping others, volunteering hundreds of hours with Habitat for Humanity. This year, she used her winter break to help build a school in Nicaragua. And this summer, she's heading to China to help rural children learn English. And at GW, she's worked in student government to expand accessibility for her classmates with disabilities. Thank you, Shirin, for your commitment to others. Leaders like Ahmed Abuznaid. Is Ahmed around? Put your hand up. There you go. Ahmed was born in East Jerusalem, and his Arab American heritage sparked in him a lifetime passion for social justice. After graduating from law school, rather than pursuing a corporate job, he co-founded the Dream Defenders, a group dedicated to changing the culture that marginalizes minority communities and to training people of color, young people, to be our future leaders. He's helped lead nonviolent protests and advocated for important policy changes. He's even testified before the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights. So thank you, Ahmed, for taking on the big challenges. Shirin and Ahmed, like all of this year's award winners, capture the spirit of humanity we celebrate tonight. But unfortunately, as we know too well, there are those in this world who choose violence over working for peaceful change. And many of today's biggest challenges come together in the Middle East. So let me briefly touch on some of the ways that we're responding to current crises and working to improve security in the region. First, we continue to believe that a comprehensive peace between Israelis and Palestinians is necessary, just, and possible. The United States remains firmly committed to an independent, viable, and contiguous Palestinian state living alongside a democratic Jewish state of Israel in peace and security. President Obama has made clear that we need to take a hard look at our approach to the conflict, and that resolving it is in the national security interest of the United States. We look to the next Israeli government and the Palestinian Authority to demonstrate, through policies and actions, a genuine commitment to a two-state solution. We know what a peace agreement should look like. Israel and an independent Palestine both need secure and recognized borders based on the 1967 lines with mutually agreed swaps. There must be robust provisions for Israel's security. The occupation must end, and the Palestinian people must have the right to govern themselves in their own sovereign state. That's why, like every U.S. administration since 1967, we have opposed Israeli settlement activity and efforts to change facts on the ground. It only makes it harder to negotiate peace in good faith. We're also working to address the lasting impact and human toll of last summer's conflict in Gaza. Incremental progress has been made, but we must accelerate reconstruction efforts and address core challenges to Gaza's future, including reinvigorating Gaza's connection with the West Bank and reestablishing strong commercial links with Israel and the global economy. Second, we've assembled a coalition of more than 60 partners to degrade and ultimately destroy ISIL. Together, we've conducted more than 3,500 airstrikes in both Iraq and Syria, damaging or destroying upwards of 5,700 ISIL targets. ISIL has lost control of 25 to 30% of the populated areas it had seized in Iraq. We're also working closely with our Iraqi partners to stabilize and rebuild the country, making sure that local populations can return and live safely in areas liberated from ISIL. In Syria, we've made some progress in slowing and in some cases reversing ISIL's advance. But we won't be able to root out ISIL, and the Syrian people will continue to suffer as long as the war in Syria persists. As we've said all along, there is no military solution to the Syrian conflict. Secretary Kerry and his team and all throughout the administration have tirelessly pursued a negotiated political transition, and we will continue to do so. But the Syrian people, as you know too well, need help now. And that's why the United States has committed more than $3.5 billion in humanitarian funding, more than any other country, to help ease the terrible suffering of the Syrian people. We're also supporting the surrounding countries who are confronting massive challenges hosting Syrian refugees. There are more than 1.2 million Syrians just in Lebanon. To date, we've provided nearly $800 million in humanitarian assistance to aid Syrians living in Lebanon and to support Lebanese host communities with essential services such as emergency food supplies, clean water, and health care. As in Syria, we believe there's also no military solution to the crisis in Yemen, and the humanitarian situation will only worsen if the conflict continues. We're working with all parties to end the violence so that UN-led political negotiations can resume promptly and humanitarian access can be restored. We're also closely monitoring the safety of U.S. citizens in Yemen, including trying to offer opportunities for evacuation. Finally, even as we're facing difficult challenges, we're strengthening our relationships in the region. In the coming weeks, President Obama will welcome the leaders of the Gulf Cooperation Council countries to Camp David to reaffirm our strong partnership, improve our security cooperation, and discuss how we can work together to end the region's conflicts. And as you know, together with our P5+1 partners, we recently reached a political framework for Iran's nuclear program. This will be a good deal if finalized and implemented, and it will address a serious threat to the United States, the region, and the world. But I want to be clear that if there is a deal, it doesn't mean in any way, shape, or form that we will cease to confront Iran's destabilizing role in the region. Rather, we would be ensuring that Iran cannot become an even more destructive force by gaining a nuclear weapon. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, there are no quick fixes, but the United States is committed to working with our partners to do everything we can to promote greater security, prosperity, and dignity throughout the Middle East. And over the course of the past year, I've had the privilege to meet with college students getting a world-class education at NYU's campus in Abu Dhabi. I met with Palestinian youth in Ramallah, eager to build a more hopeful future for their people. And best of all, I hosted the Peace Players, a group of Israeli and Palestinian teenagers, boys and girls, who use basketball to bridge political differences. And we had a wonderful pickup game on the White House basketball court. And let me tell you, those girls could play. And they were mixing it up with the boys throughout. These are young people that are no different than Shirin and Ahmed. They have the same hopes and dreams and bold ideas. They are a powerful testament to our common humanity. And for their sake, and for the sake of all the children of the region who deserve a brighter future, we will continue to push forward. And as we do, we ask for your continued partnership, support, and friendship. Thank you all very much.